Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Golden Son. Chapters 18, no, sorry, I'm looking at the thing up here. Chapters 16, 17, and 18. In these chapters, I can't believe how far things have gone already. This has moved so quickly. And we've already got the Sovereign's child that we've taken hostage. What? I am 30% into this book. And oh, okay. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Ashley for commissioning this episode. And those of you who are watching this on Crowdcast, apologies that the title of this episode does not match the number of chapters that I actually read, but it's because I had to skip a day. So once I have gotten things in place, I'm going to change the titles to match again, if I can remember to do that. But just FYI. So I am really, like I said, blown away by how fast things are moving. We're going to start where we start, but wow, did not think we would get here this quickly. So we start with the sentence that I read last episode, with Fitchner cutting away the tail on this weird worm snake thing. And it screams like a dying cat and wails around, which, you guys, I didn't expect to feel so sad about this thing being hurt. I thought it would just sort of die, like batting an insect. And the fact that it's like really in so much pain, and it says, mewing pathetically, his retreats to the box to hide in the darkness. You guys, it mewed pathetically. I hate that. Oh, I didn't see these as like real like creatures until it expressed this awful, I thought it would be just like swatting a mosquito, and then it's just stopped. So we find out what the deal is because, the last episode, I was like, why is it that she was willing to lie? Why didn't she just cop to it? And it turns out that my only theory, which was basically that Mustang was in the room and she cared, that does turn out to be true. I sort of was just like, why lie about it at this point? If you were going to do it, you would have alienated her then. And I guess all it is that she seems to think if she had done it, eventually Mustang would have got over it, which is truly something, because you don't know Mustang at all then. Maybe she would have pretended to get over it as she pretends here. But girl, no, that would be a fundamental shift in the way she sees you that you could not undo. So I am, Cassie, Cassie mentioned Howler Pod. Is that a podcast about this? Everybody go listen to Howler Pod. That's just been mentioned by Cassie. I have not heard of it, but I just heard that Howlers is like the name of the fans of these books, which I do really, really enjoy that name. Cassie's warning that it is full of spoilers. So just FYI to those of you reading along, don't do it. But just thought I would mention it. Howler Pod is a fun name. So what the Sovereign attempts to do here is to simply ration. I was going to say rationalize. Rationalizing isn't the word, though, because rationalizing implies you really in your heart know better. And you are using what seems like logic but is really excuses to excuse your actions. And that's, the Sovereign doesn't know deep in her heart it was wrong. She believes it was the right thing to do, and the only thing that she regrets about it is that it would have hurt Mustang, but she'd have done it anyway. So really what she's trying to do is like talk around Mustang. She's trying to like get her to see, don't you understand what was at stake if you really stop and consider everything in a rational manner? You have to admit, I didn't have any other option when it came down to it. And she does a convincing job, both of seeming to make an effort to talk around Mustang, but also it genuinely kind of surprised me that she was so interested in talking her around. Like, I would have thought she must actually really like and admire Mustang to care about her opinion. And I really just wasn't expecting that. I have to assume, because she truly doesn't get who Mustang is, that all of the things that happened were really out of left field, and she is left shocked by what Mustang chooses to do later. I would be delighted to be a fly on the wall when she gets the news about what has happened. But as of right now, I like reading here, I was truly like, she is going to some lengths to explain her position. She must really want to keep her around. So Mustang says, you promised you would not hurt them. You said there were no lies here. That was a precondition of my allegiance, the only thing I asked for. And you planned to do it while I watched. Now, I can't tell if she's saying a precondition of my allegiance is that you never lie to me, or if the precondition was you will never hurt them. But either way, yeah, you have lost her forever, girl. And the fact that you don't seem to believe that you think there is a way to convince her that since it was logically the right choice, you were doing something she should be okay with, the fact that you don't get how that's never happening just goes to show you have misjudged her. Either you have misjudged her entirely as a person and what her like values are, or you believe that what her values are make her weak, and that you can change her into somebody who is more cutthroat and thinks less with their heart because you believe that is what she needs. And if you believe that's what she needs, there are ways to do it that would have made a lot more sense. This, all I can think of is what the fuck would have happened had she indeed decided to go through with it. Mustang would have had to pretend to go along, because my assumption in how this was going to work is that the place would be closed off, all the doors would shut, her people would come in, they would walk like straight in and guard the doors, the Bolognas get up, go over to the table and fight, and all of it happens as a plan only for the Bologna. So they're getting up and walking over as Mustang is still sitting there kind of going, what's going on? What is happening? And I imagine Mustang looking to the Sovereign, seeing the Bolognas acting and believing that they are doing this because they have chosen to cause a scene, and then realizing the Sovereign isn't moving to stop them and understanding that the Sovereign is in on it. What happens next? She can't stop them right? How many Bologna are there that are getting up? And she's one person. She has to trust that they can take care of themselves, but it's also been set up that they have no bodyguards, very few weapons, I'm assuming. I don't see that Mustang can do anything before it's too late. And once she has reached that point where they are all dead and she is betrayed, realizing how profoundly tricked she was, I don't know if she can play it off convincingly that she is fine with this. I know she won't ever be able to be like, I am fine with it. But she would have to pretend that she was willing to accept it, go back with Cassius and his family, and then what? Because she'd want to do something like abduct the sovereign's son, but she'd have no allies in doing that anymore. She's got Darrow in the scenario we are currently in, where he has managed to out the sovereign's position while there are still Augustus's people and himself around. So she has somebody to work with, and the whole goal is to save her family from what is going to happen but has not yet happened. If this was done and her family is dead and she has no allies, what is she defending anymore? Does she eventually kind of like realize she has nowhere to go? Does she strike out on her own somehow and separate herself from the sovereign but not even take up with anybody else? She certainly couldn't continue a relationship with Cassius, I would assume. I just don't feel like she'd be able to pull that off. But she clearly has like befriended them, the Bolognas, and gotten into this relationship with him to protect her family. So once again, that motivating factor is gone. But if she broke off from them after this and was on her own, would she have a target on her back? Or would she just be like, she's part of that family? I feel like, how do you keep her alive? I just don't know, even if she's in this relationship, if the rest of Cassie's family would be willing to leave her out of it. Like, it has been so explicitly said that any children are seen as seeds that will one day like rise up and bite you in the face for what you did. I don't see her being an exception to that. And I don't really understand how the sovereign planned to pull that off. So anyway, I'm sorry to just go into all of these hypotheticals here, but I really am just trying to see what the sovereign thought she could do here. And basically, I think the sovereign assumed, if I cut her off and make it so she has no allies and family anymore, she has no choice but to continue to go along with me and the Bolognas because we're the ones in power, and she will just figure it out. And I posit that she would have a choice, and she'd have done whatever the other choice was. I don't know what that would look like, though. So at this point, Mustang is drawing a ring from her pocket and rolling it through her fingers. And I don't know what this ring is. I don't know if it was mentioned that he gave her this ring. I can't remember. I feel like I recall it being mentioned, but vaguely, and I might be making that up. But eventually we find out that he recognizes it, and the signal for him as she slips it on her finger is that she is on his side. Now, there comes a point where he's sort of like, I must have misunderstood that. I thought I got what she was saying, and clearly I didn't. But it turns out that was indeed what she was trying to tell him in that moment. So the sovereign, Octavia, is like, do you get why I need your family gone? And Mustang talks about how he disregards your orders, he doesn't obey financial stuff, he delays exports for gain. And she then says, Octavia says, if I tried removing him from power, what would happen? And Mustang says he would rebel. And she's saying it like she knows this is true. This is not her pretending to agree. I think she really does believe this is correct. This is what he would do. And basically Octavia's like, so here's the thing. If he rebelled, he would be on a whole other planet. And it would become a place that I could get locked out of. And it would cost so much money to wrest him out of there and wage a war. And we would not recover from a war like that for years and years. She's like, we just can't have that kind of uprising when I am in a position that all of my subjects reside on different planets. I have got to be presenting examples and refreshing everyone's memories that I'm in fucking charge and that they can't pull that kind of shit and just retreat into their own territory and tell me, well, go ahead and do something about it. And she's like, the fact that he is an enemy, everybody can tell that. So what am I supposed to do? Not only are they aware of the way that he kind of flouts what I tell him, but now he's on the Sons of Ares propaganda as the guy who hanged this girl. And the Sons of Ares are starting to become a real fucking problem. They're not just on Mars because he didn't quash them as fast as he should have done. And there's a real suggestion that she already had thought, is he one of the Sons of Ares? She seems to believe if he isn't one of the Sons of Ares or Ares himself, he let them get out of hand on purpose so that he would have something to use against me. And even though they would be a sort of wild, out of control weapon in his hands, it would still be that he had more control than I did because they came from his own planet. We saw the way that Augustus was reacting to the Sons of Ares, and he genuinely seemed like, okay, I've got to do something about it. So it's interesting that she's sort of like, he let that shit simmer too much on purpose. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I kind of think she's right that he let it go and that he was beginning to really realize, I don't have the handle on this that I should. Not that he was going to quash them entirely, but that he was going to bring them under enough control that they could return to being a controlled weapon for himself. And let's see. What if the governors of the gas giants thought they were immune to my orders because we're lenient with your father, because we let him manipulate helium prices or ignore sovereign directives? 40 years ago, in the first year of my reign, the moons of Saturn rebelled. The war did not end until I destroyed the moon, Rhea, outright. 50 million dead. That is how stubborn our race is. They know how difficult it is for me to flex my hand billions of kilometers from the core, but still they are afraid. So much of a ruler's reign is a figment of the people's imagination. My power isn't ships, it isn't Praetorians. My power is their fear, but they must have fresh reminders. And that makes a lot of sense, that the more distant they are, and also just the fact that the golds, it's very, the strongest survive. So you've got to make it clear, I can eat you at any time. I just let you live. And that's really seems to be the only thing that they respect amongst themselves. Like, truly. And she then shows Mustang a hologram of a riot. And there are all of these people getting mown down, a woman who gets shot in the head. And immediately Darrow thinks that this is Mars, and she's like, you would think it was Mars. It's Venus. And Mustang's like, what? The Sons of Ares aren't on Venus. And she's like, they aren't anymore, but they were there. Multiple bombings. And she's like, there were high-level personnel. We're controlling the media so that everybody doesn't find out about it because they can't know how effective this was. But they are fucking spreading. And your father let that happen. This shit is his fault. I've got to fucking deal with the mess that he made. And that means dealing with his ass. And to be honest, I get her point. You know? The whole... it does seem like it all is revolving around him at the moment. And as much as I don't know what she planned for Mustang, a part of me is like, did she just plan to kill Mustang? Is that part of why she hadn't been going to say anything? I didn't even think of that, you guys. I've just been assuming that she really likes Mustang and wanted to keep her, and that she misunderstood that she would be able to. It never occurred to me, maybe she was just going to sacrifice Mustang. I really hope not, but it seems very in line with her personality to be willing to do something like that. Anyway. But yeah, at this point, Darrow is like, I fucking told Harmony that if she went too hard, they were going to do something. And look at this. They have gotten too flashy. And it's really interesting because you guys remember back when Augustus was talking about how the Sons of Ares were like acting out more than usual. And I think it was Leto who was like, this doesn't seem like them. And I fully agreed that it wasn't them. I was like, this sounds like bad actors who are, you know, they're putting themselves into a group in order to fuck shit up. I fully stand by the examples that I gave too about how that happens. It's super common. But finding out that really it was just that the Sons of Ares had a fundamental shift in the way they operated. Really a kick to the gut. And knowing now that like they have initiated all these acts of terror, but there isn't really like, there doesn't feel like an organized quality to it. It's for the sake of violence to take out as many as possible. And I don't feel a plan behind it. There hasn't been a next step that Harmony has shared. It seems like this is what we're doing because we want them dead, period. And we don't have a bigger picture thing happening. So anyway, Ashley says, I always got the feeling that Octavia thought she'd be able to talk Mustang around. Okay. That was what I was thinking. Cassie says, I thought so too, and be grateful, Augustus, that your house remains. Yeah. I guess I could see that. But it wouldn't, well, would it, yeah, I guess it would technically be, I don't know. So she then just, I'm sorry, your father has to die. And it'll be like your family and your people, but that's only 50 people. It's a small price to pay ultimately for solving several problems at the same time. I know that he's your father, but she says, you came into my fold for a reason. And that's kind of what I mean about like, I believe that you are capable of understanding. So I really think that she just doesn't get Mustang, just on a fundamental level. And so Mustang goes and looks out the window and says that they used to go to the forest together and that they would lay in the flowers, and basically reminiscing about how lovely he was when she was a child, and ends it with, that man is dead. Do with the new one as you like. And a part of me believed her when I first read this. I was kind of like, maybe she is just realizing there's no choice at this point. But it turns out there is. So we jump to 17, What the Storm Brings. And Fitchner is applauding Darrow for managing the Sovereign so well. Good reading on her, knowing she wants what she can't have. Glory damn clever. Warms my heart to finally see you playing the game and winning, you little pisser. And he says, I left you a present. And there's a pink in Darrow's room. And Darrow says, you don't know me at all, do you? And for his part, Fitchner is like, dude, look, I get it. You're fucking salty. Shit hasn't gone the way that you planned. But you know what? You got it pretty fucking good. Can we be real for a second here? You almost just got disowned. And now you're talking to the Sovereign, being asked to be part of her inner circle and getting money and babes. I don't see what the fuck you're still whining about. Can you just admit a lot of people would kill to be in your fucking position? Like, you were just aiming for Augustus before, like he was the fucking top pinnacle that you could reach, and you've flown past that. Appreciate it and shut up. To which I have to admit, he has a point. If I didn't know who Darrow really was, I'd kind of be like, yeah, dude, I'm sick of it, you know? I just fucking, just stop. But, you know, it's also interesting because I kind of thought better than this of Darrow. And have been wanting to believe that he's aiming for something bigger. The behavior here feels like it indicates he's not. He is just trying to get laid. It's very much like a booze, bitches, and what's a B word for money? I was going to say baller, but that's like the wrong, you know what I'm trying to say. But it could be that he's throwing me off the scent. He could be purposely trying to pretend he's Mr. Hedonistic, and actually he does have a bigger plan. He's just playing a role, and I can't decide which one is going on here. Benjamins. Thank you, Cassie. Alex said bones, and while I know bones technically is something that people say about money, that is absolutely never something that I hear. Like, oh, it's going to be 40 bones for that. Do you ever hear anybody say that? Is that like a 1920s thing? I feel like they used clams instead a lot in the 20s. I might be making that up. But anyway, yes. Booze, bitches, and Benjamins. Thank you, Cassie. That's the one. So he goes into this room and he straight up throws, he like takes a throw and just tosses it over the pink because he's like, oh my God, she's naked. I can't look at her. But as like he's in the room trying to think about what to do, he's like glancing over at her more and more, just kind of like, oh, she is fine though. God. All right. No, I can't. But damn. Oh, just stop it, dude. Stop. You know, like it's just very funny. And let's see, those moments when the drill cooled and I sat touching my wedding band through my fry suit, thinking of how soon it would be that I had her lips to mine, her hands on my waist, her body drifting light as dust over my own. But I cannot think only of the red girl. When I see the moon, I think of the sun. Mustang burns in my thoughts. If Io smelled of rust and soil, then the golden girl is fire and autumn leaves. And then he goes on to say how he kind of wishes he couldn't fall in love again. I loved this because this is something that's like part of a sort of romanticized idea of love and the idea that like there's one person out there for you. And if the love was true enough, then there's simply no one else. And to me, as somebody who has grown and changed my thinking on romantic love. I really do not believe that there is one person that's the one for you. I think that you need different people for different stages of your life. And there comes a point where you have learned what you can from a relationship and it's time to move on. And so to me, just like, oh, the one, that concept, I don't really buy it. I believe who I am with now, with Owen, I genuinely believe is my one for the rest of my life. And I have no doubts surrounding that. But I never was looking for the one. It was like after Brendan. It wasn't like something I set out and believed in. I think I have gotten lucky and stumbled backward into it. And mostly, I think we are meant to experience different people at different times to learn different things. But there is this sort of puritanical thinking about it where, well, how much can you have really loved her? Because only like a year or two later and you're in bed with some other girl. And it's just, that's not what people are like, you know? And the idea that it is very limiting and weird. It's a strange expectation. And he's like, you know, so I could be like one of those knights of legend. And that's the thing about legends is people have got to be extremely one-dimensional for the story to like live on for years and years. You don't keep nuance in those sorts of tales. So I rather like the fact that he has fallen for Mustang and recognizes how totally different she is than Neo. And that is part of what he embraces about her. You know, it could be very much like, oh, he fell for somebody who is just like his wife and reminds him of her so much. And I love that, like, the only way she reminds him of his wife is that she's so different. I don't know. I do like that. So there's this mention here about how trapped he feels by this room. And he mentions that there is a sauna, a massage parlor adjacent to a pleasure chamber. And the pleasure chamber is weirdly capitalized. What does that mean? Is that like a sex dungeon? Or is that like a 3D, like, what do you call it? Like a virtual reality experience? Or like, I'm genuinely curious what the fuck that means. There's a calm chair, a bed, a small swimming pool. Kids, please put me here. I really, you know what? I don't want a pool. I want a hot tub. That's what I really want. He's got a sauna and a pool, and it's like, oh, so close. I would rather have a hot tub and no sauna, or all three, or no pool. So yeah, this is the part where he's looking at the pink and he's just like, pinks are to help you forget. So effective, they even make you forget their own sad plight. And he's thinking about how she'll be put out to pasture one day when she gets too old. And then it's like, golds do that too. You know, it sucks for her, but that's what they do to fucking all of us. And the pink is like, hey, come join me again. And then all of a sudden his door opens and he assumes it's Mustang and turns around and there's a dude, a male pink with a box. And he's like really bummed, immediately thinking, oh, I misjudged her again. But no, he is just, she just can't come directly to your room. So he turns on the holocube and Mustang's face appears and she tells him to take cover and then all the power goes out. His doors lock automatically, which is part of the like security feature. And then he hears howling and he's like, oh shit. And here comes Sevro. And I was so excited to see him, you guys. I have missed Sevro so bad. I really enjoy that the author keeps him from us for a little while because you feel the loss of him so acutely. Like, it really underlines how essential he has been and makes Darrow feel all the more vulnerable. Because there's just a real sense of like, Sevro has his back so hard that I worry a lot less about him when Sevro's around. And so for Darrow to feel truly alone in the world, I've got to say, Sevro being taken out of the picture was quite effective. So they've got all of these, he's got all these pals, and they all have like these, boots to float. I love that he calls them small, cruel little devils waiting in the darkness, silhouetted by the crackling of the storm's electricity. Long-legged Quinn is there too. They sound so badass in that. I love that. So, Sevro breaks the glass because Darrow had been looking around like, how do I get out of here? And he literally couldn't find a way. And they managed to break the glass, so that works. And I just really enjoy this reunion and all of them being so excited to see him. And I love Sevro being like, the fuck are you doing in this goddamn room? Oh my God, it's sickening. And Quinn says that they've been there on standby for a week. She needed men she knew wouldn't be loyal to the Sovereign. And I love him being like, I can't believe I ever doubted her. Yeah, dude, I swear to God, the fact that he just like immediately was like, oh, she must really like Cassius. Anyway, the Sovereign wasn't worried about me knowing anything else, why play the game, but as soon as Mustang entered the room, the paradigm altered. She should have concluded the game then and there, but her pride got the better of her. And this is the mention of the ring. And everybody, like, there's just, these embraces and just like, son of a bitch, I thought you were dead. Not really, but, it's got that kind of energy. And he calls his father, Sevro calls his father a shit eater. He's made his bed. Let him sleep in it while we burn the house down. Well. Wasn't expecting that, but, there's a suggestion here that Sevro is in love with Quinn. Quinn must just really be a fucking heartbreaker. R.I.P. Quinn, by the way. She does not make it out of this section. But she, like, everybody falls for her. We had Cassius, right? He was into her, and then Roke, and now Sevro. So everybody's just had their moment of just like, so at this point, Darrow notices a bag that Sevro brought, and he's like, it's moving around. What is in that? And Sevro smiles and opens it up. And I knew immediately, I was like, that's her fucking son in there. And indeed, it does turn out to be. So they jump out the window, and they don't even have to use their grab boots because the gravity is so low that they can just jump, which is wild to me to think about. So eventually they wind up at the Augustus compound, and they're expecting to come into like a fight, and nothing seems to be happening. Sevro is like, they may be dead already. Like if she just decided to go into their beds and murder them in their sleep. This is to look like a Bologna massacre. The Sovereign won't want to be implicated. And I was kind of surprised at that. Like, I would have expected that she would want to be implicated because people would want to know she has an iron grip on things. But maybe it's supposed to be, ultimately they will know she is responsible, but there'll be plausible deniability at the least. So anyway, it says visual is too clear. If they have optics, they'll spot us up on the wall. We can make an incursion there, sweep down level by level. And she's worried about Roke. It turns out it should be the other way around. So they land on the roof and creep along. And eventually, Sevro is like, because they still haven't run into anybody. He's like, do you think they were captured? And he's like, yeah, no. They're only going to die. There's no capturing that's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, they hear a jam field that has gone up. And they see a shadow, and there are some Praetorians coming closer. Let's see. We go down a circular marble stairwell. Their oiled armor creaks slowly, echoing down the cavernous stairwell. We can see the marble of the first level more than 100 feet beneath, but no movement. The first blood is found on the 6th level, seeping from the steam room. And it turns out it's all servants, more than 20 people, and they just killed them immediately through the skull like an execution. And it's so sad to me that these people, like, I'm not trying to suggest that they don't have any loyalty to the Augustus family. I don't really know how people of this level think. I know that the Reds felt no loyalty, but they did not serve the Golds on an everyday level like this. And it is a real tendency for servants to have a sense of loyalty to their masters because they get a kind of a social clout themselves based on who they work for. So it becomes a way for them to distinguish themselves. So, you know, my instinct is to just consider these people to be innocent Starbucks workers. And, you know, really probably they were more loyal than I believe on first thought. But the kind of loyal where they needed to be murdered, like, it just feels so unnecessary. I have to assume, though, it's just a clean sweep. You just get rid of anybody who would have any lingering feelings about the thing because you just never know. And it's the easiest and neatest and tidiest way to do it. So then they find a gold, an old knight. And then he says, out the window, I glimpsed the Augustan lancer who mocked my skills with the razor only a day ago. She rushes from the house to the gardens, and somebody comes up to her and just kills her. And it's like so quick. There is absolutely nothing they could have done about it, which, considering that she was making fun of him, a part of me is just like, suck. But you know, so at this point, Roke will write 1,000 gory poems if you get so much as a bump on yours. Oh boy, I just realized, like, yeah, we're about to see Roke go into his grief era. So they get to the next stairwell, and they feel vibrations. And immediately, Darrow jumps over the banister, and it says, I ripped down the center of the spiral stairwell with 10 times the velocity this moon's gravity would allow. Pop! I entered the domain of a second jam field, and sounds of war rattle over me. Concussive blasts yelling, burners hissing over bullets, pulse weapons warbling like demented ghosts. The moment before I land, I tweak my grav boots, jerking myself to a powerful stop. I slap into the marble and swing my razor around my head in a violent loop. 4 Praetorian Greys die. 8 thumps hitting the floor. Grim, you guys. Their ghost cloaks disintegrate like thin window frost against hot breath. And the ghost cloaks make them invisible, right? So they have this combo of being unseen and unheard, but right near you, murdering people, which is truly like a really scary thought. It's one thing to be in a building where you can hear violence happening and you're running for your life because you can hear it. And it's another thing to know that there might be people who don't know what's even going on yet. And we've had 20 servants slaughtered and they have no fucking clue. And they're just getting up and shuffling over to the fucking kitchen for a glass of water in the middle of the night. And they don't, you know what I mean? Like, that's terrifying. So at this point, he's looking around and seeing the damage that's been done. And Greys and Obsidians chase down Augustan Golds. 6 Greys overwhelm 2 Golds with rail rifles, magnetic ammunition screaming into Aegises till they overload and warp backward, overloading the circuitry. So it's basically a massacre here. So he's like, the Greys spot him. They turn and begin to fire on him. The Howlers come down and they've got their shields up. And he nearly gets his head taken off, which I appreciate that he says he is terrified. It's so easy to write somebody as just being incredibly like in the moment and clear-headed. You know, come on, let's be fucking real about this. This is something that's, recently kind of become a little bit more of a thing for me in action movies, is like, I enjoy seeing a character who seems to not get rattled at times, but we have entered this era where it's like nobody is ever afraid of anything anymore. And in my opinion, some of the most satisfying stuff is when you see your hero get worn down and terrified. Like, that's part of the best part of Indiana Jones. He is a mess. He gets his ass kicked and is recovering when he gets to the next fight, and he's still sore and broken. He is always like one step behind everything, so they have to catch up. And I like seeing that he isn't just immortal, basically. And that can be sometimes the problem. John Wick manages to do a thing where he's practically immortal. Killing him seems impossible, but John himself can get really exhausted and reaches a point in a fight where he's like swaying on his feet. So that's something. But anyway, oh, thank you. Sorry, I just saw Ashley Lysander is Octavia's grandson. Thank you. I totally got that wrong. So we ascend out of the chaos before the Praetorians fall on us. I come to a halt 200 meters above the villa. Wind whips. I had no plan when I dove down to the first level. I thought only of my friends. Now I know the Howlers, and I will be killed if we. Now I know the Howlers, and I will be killed if we fight. I let my razor curl placidly around my arm. I instruct the Howlers to do the same and roar into the darkness. So he calls out for Asia. And she comes up and basically is like, first there is a stained that threatens him. And he's like, the fuck do you think you're doing? And then she turns up, pulls that obsidian down. Varga, a woman with more, what does he say? More scars on her face than I have on my entire body. She basically is like, why the fuck are you here? I am going to slice you open, because she won't care if you're here for them. He tries to be like, oh, my business is the sovereigns. And she's like, the fuck it is. Let's see. Here it is. You're not in your room and you killed my men. Fitchener was wrong about you. I have something you'll want, I say sharply, but call off your dogs. They tried to escape before we came, even with their grav boots confiscated. Foolish attempt. They tried to contract the Julii, but they've been bought. Victra? I ask. She betrayed us. Alive with the rest, she'll be spared thanks to her mother's cooperation. I can't say that I'm mad about it. I really can't. Like, I want to feel more betrayed, but I just sort of liked Victra enough that I'm like, you know, gotta do what you gotta do a little bit. They just live in this impossible world where I appreciate having the level of principles and foresight that Mustang has. I definitely think she is the better person. But I just can't help but understand Victra and be like, yeah, girl, gotta do what you gotta do. I don't know. Are any still alive? The prizes are. I breathe a sigh of relief. Your friends are in the lagoon. They hid there because our infrared is blinded by the pool's heat. A desperate last attempt. The air filtration systems on their helmets will have short-circuited from the EMP, so all they'll have is the air in their helmets. Not much of it either. And then she's like, some of them don't have helmets either. Soon they'll bob up like apples. And there's something about the bob up like apples. She could have said they'll bob up like dead fish, or, you know, trying to make it sort of gruesome, but having it be this pleasant image, like bobbing apples, made it worse. You know what I'm saying? There's just also apples around and it makes you think of heads. So again, he tries to be like, I have something you want. And she's like, what we fucking want is for you to go to your room and fuck that rose that we left you and mind your own fucking business. And she's just not hearing what the deal he's trying to make. And he says, I hope you remember the pain you brought others when I stand over your corpse. I was like, well, he's just saying that shit. She almost comes at him, but she knows she can't. And then Sevro, Darrow. Yes, Sevro. All that talk about remembering. Aren't you forgetting something right now? I think he is, Quinn agrees. Our wise but forgetful Reaper, finishes Clown in a very frivolous fashion. Apologies, Asia. I forgot what I even came here to tell you. Quinn sighs. The bag? Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me, Sevro. Tell Weed to get down here. Sevro speaks into his comm, and a moment later Weed disengages his ghost cloak and flies from the wall a kilometer distant. I love it. Pebble whistles a merry tune, earning a scowl from Harpy and a chuckle from Sevro, who picks it up as well. The Praetorians think they are insane. I love this so much. They sound so chaotic. It's just great. So, at this point, he says, stop the killing and I'll tell you. And Asia says, I don't negotiate with little assholes like you. And then he nudges the bag to make it move. And she realizes and is like, okay, what the fuck? And he opens it. And out comes Lysander. And she's like, how did they get you out? And Lysander's like, oh, it was Mustang. She cut open my window. And I love this so much. She immediately is just like, I can't believe you would do this to a helpless boy. And Lysander is like, girl, what are you talking about? Lysander himself. He's just like, a helpless boy. We're all pieces on the board. You play the fucking game too. Don't act like you don't. Like, he's not as mad about it as I'm making him sound, but it's very much like, girl, I know the role I play. This is the thing I do. I be a hostage for people doing stuff. I'm fine with it. Like, do I want to be in this position? No. I am also not particularly worried, and I'm certainly not, like, outraged. Because, of course, they'd do this. And it's really funny about how, like, fucking Asia has the nerve to go, how could you do this to a child? And it's like, you're out here fucking murdering children yourself. Shut the fuck up. What are you even saying? And then we have this moment where Darrow has to have adequately convinced her he would definitely kill this kid. And she believes it, even though we know he would not do it. And if they called him on it, he'd have to admit he couldn't do it. Like, he knows what he has to do is keep them from calling his bluff at all. Because if they do, that's the end of it. That's a wrap on him. He has to make everyone truly see him as somebody this brutal that would kill a child in cold blood and start this whole new type of war that wasn't what we were coping with to begin with. So he has to, like, he's risking it all, because you could think, oh, the Sovereign is just going to be like, fine, kill him. Go ahead. But he doesn't believe she would do that. One, because it's a bad look for her to just be like, well, I lost a grandson, that sucks, but I'm still alive, so fuck all of you. He doesn't really think that she would do that. And secondly, he has to be willing to bet that she is willing to let Augustus' family go. That, like, as much as she wants them dead, and it would be expedient to kill them now, it isn't such a complete loss if they're able to get away, that she can deal with them in another way later. So he's hoping all of this is true. A ship roars overhead. The bay doors open 200 meters up as I instructed. So long as we have the boy, the ship's speed doesn't matter a lick. Of course Mustang planned that. So he's like, okay, I want you to tell your men to let those guys out of the pond, and they are going to allow them into the ships to get away and not do shit to stop us. So Sevro, Thistle, check the villa, see if anyone's managed to survive. Quinn, guard the boy. The rest of you get the Archgovernor and his retinue out of the pool. So Quinn stays with him and is very twitchy. She keeps like wanting to pull on Asia because Asia is giving him a look, and it's very clear she desperately wants to be let off the leash. She just wants to tear into this dude. And honestly, I get it. Like, he's out here just telling her how shit's gonna be, and she's used to being the head bitch in charge, and that's not a happy place. So they get all of the survivors onto this ship. There's a moment with Victra yelling like, I'll remember you all with great joy, starting with you, Asia. Oh, Grimace, I will make a coat of your hide. Which feels like if she turned on them, that's a weird energy to carry. I'm a little bit confused by that. Is it just that she turned on them unwillingly? And so now that she's able to like get away, she's just giving him the finger? I don't know. Theodora's okay. We see Roke, who Quinn waves to, and, you know, this leads him to believe she's okay, and now we're going to have to deliver this fucking news. And Tactus is bleeding from a dozen holes in his gold armor. He put up a nasty fight. There is something about Tactus that's starting to grow on me, and I know I really shouldn't feel this way because he is a fucking rapist. But I gotta admit, a part of me is sort of starting to like... He's like, I feel like if he had been treated better and had a better example, he could have been a lot more like Sevro. Because he definitely is a fan of chaos. And there's a weird sort of loyalty to him, even though he isn't, you know, like, he isn't really... He was the one who had the escape pod leave before Darrow was on, and he turned on Darrow when there were people watching. But there's a part of me that feels like every time Darrow shows up and really does shit, he wins Tactus over a little bit more. And there's gonna be a point where even Tactus is going to be like, I just can't betray you anymore, dude. It's in my nature to do so, but I have reached the threshold, and now it's like the deductible is paid for and all of it's credit now. So anyway, he sees Darrow and just calls him a mad bastard, and then recognizes Lysander and is like, oh my God, you fucking didn't. I love the detail that Lysander recognizes Tactus. You guys, he isn't mad at being kidnapped because these people are like all of his favorite characters from a reality show. It's like if one of the people from The Circle came and abducted me. And I would be like, look, I don't like that I'm being abducted, but oh my God, I loved the episode where you blank, blank, blank. Like, I would just, you know, it's harder to be mad at somebody that you also really kind of admire and saw do badass shit. It's hard. I really enjoy this. So, anyway, at this point, Darrow says, tell your master we of Mars do not bow so easily. And Asia begins to talk weird, and he realizes she's reciting what she's being told by the Sovereign into her ear. And the Sovereign is basically like, everybody fucking says that. And I have taken down every person who acted like they were too high up for me to reach. And ends with, you have one bargaining chip. My grandson is your safe passage. If he dies, I wipe your ship from the sky. Spend him wisely. And he thinks, I know. Why do you feel the need to say that? And Quinn says it's time to go. And she's covering his retreat. And he's still puzzling out the Sovereign saying, I have one bargaining chip. And he looks down and says, I see why as Asia looks at Quinn rising from the ground as a cat looks at a mouse. And Lysander yells Asia, no. I love Lysander, you guys. What a weird little, like, he's the people who kidnapped him. He's like, don't you dare hurt them. Bless him and his little heart. I may not like him in a chapter or two, but as of right now, I feel like he's such a cinnamon roll and I just love him. So Asia grabs Quinn by the hair and slams her head into the ground and then punches her until she dies. And that is the end of chapter 18, and that's where I had to stop. And that was such a bummer, kids. Oh my God. I don't know why this is what the Sovereign was telling him, though. Like, because he's like, why was she telling me that I only have one coin and to spend it wisely? Was she reminding me I could spend it only once? Only kill Lysander if my back was to the wall? Then I see why as Asia looks at Quinn. And I don't know exactly what he means by I see why. I don't understand the connection between you have one bargaining chip. Like, is she just saying, I have no compunction about killing your people? And I'll show you? Like, I don't really get what it is that he is trying to say there. So just putting it out there if anybody feels like giving me their interpretation of that. But, yeah, these are really good chapters. And I just really feel... Oh, Cassie says, the Sovereign is telling him something's about to go down. Don't react rashly. So basically, the Sovereign wants Asia to make an example of Quinn and is like, if you react to that, you will have fucked up. So you have got to keep your cool and go on your merry way and let this happen. Okay, I see what you're saying. Huh, all right, that makes sense. That's funny because, I mean, Darrow's got a temper problem. Like, you know, he's not happy the best of times. And anybody does shit to his people, and he sees red, and I mean that in all the senses that I can mean it in this series. I don't know what he does next. Like, and I'm so tempted to like live read the next sentence, you guys, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try and fucking like keep it in my pants for once. I really want to believe. He regretfully flies onto his ship with Lysander at his side, staring down at Quinn's body, feeling numb and sad. Because that's the smart thing to do. But Darrow just isn't a numb type, is he? Like, I feel like he has to kill Asia. I feel like he's going to completely lose his shit. I just don't see him leaving now. And Lysander's right here. So he has to keep him safe or else call down one of the Howlers from one of the ships. There are enough of the bad men left that if he kills Asia, he's fucking everything up for himself. Like, killing Asia doesn't just stop everything. It's not like she's like the mother drone. Those dudes aren't under her command in the way of like droids. They are people. And they will continue following the orders they were meant to because they work for the Sovereign, and that's that. Oh. Sovereign. I really didn't feel like you didn't get Mustang. But I'm really starting to think she gets Darrow, and that's going to be a problem, isn't it? Like, as long as she underestimated and misunderstood Mustang could use that. But if she has Darrow really pegged, then she can just play him like a fucking fiddle unless he decides to not be so predictable. And, he's got an issue with that. He really does. So I just hope that we get to see Darrow grow a little and not give in to temper. But I don't think we're gonna. And honestly, as much as I say I hope that we see, a part of me doesn't want that. I like the chaos. I like that he's just like, no, fuck the plan a lot of the time and just does a thing. So a little bit, I'd like to see him fuck Asia all the way up. I can't lie. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys. Thank you again so much for hanging out. Appreciate you all a lot. And thank you, Ashley, for commissioning this. It's been super fun. Thank you, Cassie and Alex, for joining as well. Hope you're enjoying the coverage. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.